There are words that can shatter your soul, pages that can rewrite your understanding of human nature, and books that leave scars on your psyche long after you've closed them. Today, we're descending into the literary abyss to explore 6 of the darkest books ever written, works so devastating, so unflinchingly brutal in their examination of humanity's capacity for evil, that they've left readers questioning everything they thought they knew about morality, sanity, and the very nature of existence itself. These aren't just dark stories. Our journey begins with The Road by Cormac McCarthy, a post-apocalyptic masterpiece that doesn't just explore darkness, it becomes darkness itself. In this ash-covered hellscape, a nameless father and son traverse a dead America where cannibalism isn't aberrant but inevitable, where kindness can be a death sentence, and where the last vestiges of human goodness flicker like dying embers in an endless winter. The father knows things the boy doesn't. He remembers the world before, remembers what they've lost, remembers his wife who chose suicide over facing this new reality. Her final words weren't declarations of love, but accusations, calling him delusional for thinking they could survive in a world where being alive might be the cruelest fate of all. McCarthy strips away civilization to reveal what we truly are when everything we've built crumbles to dust. The father carries a gun with 2 bullets, one for his son, one for himself, because in this world, love is measured not by what you're willing to live for, but by what you're willing to die to prevent. The boy asks, "Are we still the good guys, Papa?" And that question echoes through every page, every choice, every moment where survival demands they abandon their humanity to preserve their lives. Second, if The Road shows us humanity's end, McCarthy's Blood Meridian reveals the violence that was always at our beginning. Set in the 1850s American West, this isn't a story about good triumphing over evil. It's about evil so pure, so absolute that it transcends morality entirely. Through the eyes of the kid, we witness Judge Holden, one of literature's most terrifying antagonists, who embodies violence as a philosophical principle. The judge is massive, hairless, pale as death itself, and he argues with scholarly precision that war is the truest form of human expression, that violence isn't corruption but revelation. We follow scalp hunting expeditions where Apache and Mexican scalps bring the same bounty, where massacres become routine, and where brutality is so graphic that it forces us to confront the genocidal foundations upon which civilizations are built. The kid begins innocent, but is slowly consumed by the very violence he witnesses. McCarthy suggests that violence isn't corruption of human nature. It is human nature, stripped of its comfortable illusions, and the judge represents the dark god of that philosophy, eternal and unkillable. Third, from the frontier's blood-soaked soil, we enter the sterile corridors of consumer capitalism with Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho. Patrick Bateman isn't just a serial killer, he's the logical endpoint of a society that values image over substance, consumption over compassion. Working on Wall Street by day, torturing and murdering by night, Bateman describes skincare routines and dismemberment with the same meticulous attention to detail. Ellis crafts a character so hollow, so perfectly manufactured by consumer culture, that his horrific violence becomes indistinguishable from his brand preferences. The true horror isn't Bateman's murders, it's how seamlessly he fits into a world that has already murdered empathy, authenticity, and human connection. His colleagues are so obsessed with status symbols they can't even recognize each other correctly, mistaking identities constantly while Bateman confesses to murders that no one believes because they're too focused on his business card's font to notice his words. Through Bateman's meticulous descriptions of torture and designer clothing, Ellis reveals a society where the only difference between boardroom and killing floor is the quality of the suit.
Fourth, the darkness deepens with Jerzy Kosinski's The Painted Bird, which follows a dark-haired boy's journey through Eastern Europe during World War II, mistaken for a gypsy or Jew and persecuted by superstitious villagers. This isn't just a Holocaust narrative, it's an examination of how cruelty becomes normalized, how ordinary people transform into monsters when given permission by ideology and circumstance. The child witnesses and experiences horrors that would break most adults. He's buried up to his neck and left for ravens, thrown into a cesspit, forced to watch brutal rapes and murders, and experiences psychological abuse that reveals how thin the veneer of civilization truly is. Each village presents new torment, new forms of human cruelty disguised as religious ritual or folk justice. The boy's dark coloring makes him a target for every superstition, every fear, every latent hatred that war has brought to the surface. Kosinski forces us to see evil not as an aberration, but as a potential that lurks within every community, every neighbor, every person who believes they're fundamentally good while participating in systematic cruelty. Fifth, perhaps no work plunges deeper into the abyss of human depravity than the Marquis de Sade's 120 Days of Sodom. Written in the Bastille on a continuous scroll, this isn't just literature. It's a systematic catalog of every form of cruelty, perversion, and moral corruption imaginable. Sade creates a world where 4 wealthy libertines, a judge, a bishop, a banker, and a duke, imprison victims in a remote castle to explore the absolute limits of human degradation over exactly 120 days. The book functions as both pornography and philosophy, with the libertines escalating from simple perversions to elaborate tortures to mass murder, all while justifying their actions through rational argument. Sade argues that in a godless universe, the only authentic response is to embrace evil completely, to reject all social constraints as artificial limitations on human potential. The victims aren't just bodies to be destroyed, but symbols of innocence, virtue, and social order that the libertines systematically obliterate. Its darkness so pure that it becomes almost abstract, a mathematical equation of suffering that challenges readers to confront what happens when all moral constraints are removed and power becomes absolute. Sixth, our final descent brings us to Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, which may be the most terrifying entry on this list precisely because it's true. The brutal murder of the Clutter family in rural Kansas becomes Capote's canvas for exploring how evil functions in the real world. Herb Clutter, his wife Bonnie, and their teenage children Nancy and Kenyon are murdered in their farmhouse by Perry Smith and Dick Hickok, 2 ex-convicts who break in expecting to find a safe full of money that doesn't exist. Capote spent years interviewing the killers, getting inside their minds, understanding their backgrounds, their psychology, their relationship with each other. Perry emerges as a complex figure, artistic, intelligent, haunted by childhood trauma, while Dick is more straightforwardly sociopathic. The horror lies not just in the senseless violence, but in how ordinary these men are, how their lives intersected with tragic consequences through a chain of circumstances that could have been broken at any point. Capote's masterpiece lies in his ability to humanize the killers without excusing their actions, to show how circumstance, psychology, and choice combine to create an act of senseless violence that shattered multiple families and communities. The book forces us to confront the fact that the monsters aren't hiding under our beds. They're walking among us, products of the same society that produced their victims. What unites these 6 works isn't just their subject matter, it's their unflinching commitment to showing us truths we'd rather avoid. Each author has chosen to stare directly into the abyss of human nature and report back what they've seen. They don't offer redemption arcs or moral lessons wrapped in comfortable packages. Instead, they present darkness as a fundamental aspect of existence that we ignore at our own peril.
This exploration of literature's most challenging works has left you hungry for more deep dives into the stories that push the boundaries of what we're willing to confront about ourselves. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we'll be examining another corner of human creativity where artists dare to ask the questions most are too afraid to voice. Until then, remember, sometimes the most important truths are the ones that hurt the most to hear.